Hi, this is Jim W6LG, your YouTube
Perfect.
owner. Welcome to my radio room in Rockland, California. With me is Vince, VE6LK. Hi, Vince.
Hi, Jim. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing okay. How about you?
Hey, if I was any better, I'd be two people. And if you
Yeah.
believe that, I have some oceanfront property in Arizona up for sale. But,
Right.
old age is catching up with us, I think, today.
Yeah.
That's just
Actually,
the way it goes.
Vince has initiated this Zoom call um, because we're going to talk a little bit about me and what my background is and what I try to do on YouTube. So, Vince, there's a
Well,
few things that,
Jim. First off, it's my honor to be working with you today on this project. Um, let's start with a little bit of your background. Uh, what got you interested in ham radio? How old were you? When did you license? Tell us
yeah,
a bit about that, because you've been doing this for a while.
a while, yeah. In the uh, early 1960s, my aunt had a shortwave receiver from Hallicrafters, an SX, I think it was 38. And I would
Oh
go,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'd go over to her house, and there were these broadcast stations like Radio Moscow and other stuff. And I was fascinated by it. And then I could hear some ham radio guys talking, and I thought, wow, one guy's talking to another guy. And um, there was a class that was started through Boy Scouts to get a novice license.
Oh,
And
neat.
I was invited to that class, and I was thrilled to be able to do it, not knowing much of anything about it. So I got a novice license when I was 14. I was born in 1949, and I got it before my 15th birthday in March of 1964. And since that time, those 61 years, I've stayed on the air. When I was in an apartment, I would throw a wire out the balcony and go on the air with something. I've always enjoyed doing it. So uh,
Yeah,
I've been fortunate to be on the air all of that time.
that's great. And your schooling background, I think you mentioned it was not engineering, but this is a gearhead or a techno hobby. So,
And
um,
I think that's what interests me and a lot of people is the technology and how does that work? Velocity factor. What the heck is a velocity factor? So I I did not take classes in college in electronics because the counselor said there are no jobs. And she wrote across the application business finance.
mm,
So my degrees and undergraduate degrees are in finance, but I've always enjoyed the electronics. And um, there have been guys who helped me along the way, and two I can think of right off the top. In
mhm.
my neighborhood in Burbank, there were hams. Every couple of streets, there was another ham radio operator. Most of the guys were from World War II, CW operators. And this stuff was in their blood, and they were as kind as could be. Um, as a kid, I had a transmitter that stopped working. I put it in a red wagon and rolled it over to Jack Tate's house, and Jack fixed it for me, and I rolled it back home. And I was thrilled at that because I could take it somewhere, and the guy knew what to do. Um,
It must have been like a big thing. You had to roll it in a wagon.
it was a big transmitter. It was heavy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I was lucky to have it. It was a nice one. Uh, Probably paid for by the studio or my father worked.
Yeah.
So then another time in that range, I was driving a car at 16 years old or so. I pulled up behind a guy at a stoplight, and he had call letters on his license plate. And so his name was ultimately his name was Lou. So I followed Lou home, but he saw me in his rearview mirror and thought, what the hell? And he hurried home. I mean, he was like doing 60, 70 miles an hour through residential streets, and I'm trying to keep up with him. So he pulls up, I get out, and he's like, what is this about? and I told him who I was, and he invited me in, and that was a relationship that lasted like until he died, probably 40 years. Lou had the ability to take really complicated subjects like decibels and break it down into simple language. And that's how he would teach me. He was my Elmer for the rest of the time he was alive. And
Yeah.
there were times where I called him this is before other ways to chat.
Yeah.
I'd call him on the phone. I can even tell you his phone number still. And I'd say, Lou, I don't understand something. Or I would go over to his house. They'd have me in the house, give me dinner, and Lou would sit there and explain something to me. And he would do it in a really simple way that made sense. I didn't need to know all of the like the placeholder numbers that go with resonance. Like
Mm,
I just needed to know that resonance might be here and the low SWR might be here and R equals something and zero reactance. Those kinds of things. I needed to know that, but not the math that went with it. And so that's what I've tried to convey to others in as best a way as I can. Because I would sit at their kitchen table, they'd give me a dinner and say, and he'd be showing me stuff. And so I may not be able to give the guy dinner I'm talking to, but I want to explain it in a friendly, nice way because a lot of this stuff is complicated.
sure.
But it's great to know. It's great to know what happens when you double your power or you have really lossy coax or any number of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, 64 years of being on the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so you had some very good early Elmers, and so today your YouTube channel is very popular, 52,000 subs. And you are our YouTube Elmer, for which many of us are grateful. But
Thank
you've
you.
got a tremendous style of um, distilling a complex subject down to the simple stuff. There's a very famous video of you with a couple of light bulbs and working FT8, and there's the gray coax. Is it any good? And there's some bad gray coax out there, and there's some good gray coax out there too. But there's some pretty telltale signs.
Yeah.
Those are the quick ones that come to my mind. Um,
My favorite one
yeah.
is where I strung out Christmas lights.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And I transmitted into it like a dipole.
yeah,
And the ones in the middle are really dull. There's no brilliance to them. The ones on the end are really bright. And
yeah.
I got to explain that. That's one that I worked like a week to build that thing.
Oh, sure.
And it was fun I had fun doing it. I had a big
Yeah,
smile on my face when it lit up and I thought, wow. The light bulb one on FT8 was really funny because I took it and I formed a dipole out of two light bulbs in one of those sockets.
yeah. One of those Y sockets
Yeah,
that people
yeah,
don't see anymore
yeah.
because we
Re
don't use incandescent
yeah.
bulbs.
Rewired it on the inside, hooked it up to a transceiver, went on FT8 and made contacts with the
Yeah,
light bulb in the window. And that was like, oh my God, this is really amazing. So I'm not an FT8 operator, but it is an amazing means of communicating. Oh, the digital modes are fantastic. And those guys who are developing variations of that, boy, are they smart. And they've got some great ideas. So, another thing that if you, I'm a big one for listening and
yeah,
tuning around the band. You can turn on 20 meters like at night and maybe it's dead. There's nothing. But FT8 on your scope, it's right there. And there's a
yeah,
bunch of guys doing it. So
yeah, yeah. It's kind of like dial tone. And sadly, I don't think too many people who were born 20 years ago know what dial tone means.
yeah.
But we used to pick up the phone and go, "Oh, there's dial tone there, and we can use the phone."
Or
You'd hear
yeah,
this noise, right?
yeah. Or
So,
landline or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, indeed.
I'll tell you
This,
another thing that you get involved in, and that's POTA has
yeah,
been. I'm thrilled. I'm shocked. I guess the word would be gobsmacked. Um,
yeah, you and me both.
it is like there is, and it's great because it's getting guys outside. they're
and experimenting.
now you put up an antenna once that was not going to work. It should not have worked. You had one strung in a tree.
Yeah, I sat at a picnic table and there were a bunch of small trees and they're densely packed. And I'm not going to put up a mast in a picnic area because somebody's going to trip over something. So I strung the wire up as high as my arms could reach, about 7 feet high, and I strung out a 60 something foot end fed along the trees,
And
along the walking path to the next
you
picnic table. And I
you
made
you
contacts in
you,
Japan and Europe.
you know that'll never work.
Yeah,
It,
apparently it'll never work. And that's why I worked Japan and Europe that day on 5 watts.
I think that that's a good point to make, period, is that
Yeah,
sometimes you are in a place where you can't put up a big antenna, but you can do an infed to a tree because of an HOA
yeah,
or something. Do it.
for
Get on
sure.
the air. Even if it's only 10 feet off the ground, do it. Get on the air. You'll be surprised at what you will work because we can't all, and I've had Yagis at 60 feet.
Yeah.
We can't, I can't do that anymore. But so I put up a little tower and a rotating tower and a beam on top. Um, and I'm working the world with it and I'm having a lot of fun. Now, in
Yeah,
theory, it should not work very well because it's too low, but it's working great. And I'm able to talk to good friends around the world. That's for me the thrill of yes about being licensed. That's the thrill for me of ham radio is talking to a guy in Canada, talking to a guy in Texas,
yeah, yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So you mentioned you had some phased Yankees at your last place, and now your new antenna farm isn't nearly as elaborate as your last one. And it's perfection is the enemy of good enough is one of my father's favorite expressions.
Say that again now, slowly.
Perfection is the enemy of good enough.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, yeah, it is.
a guy
Yeah,
can really get hung up over, well, I have a multi-band, G5RV or whatever, multi-band antenna but it's a half wavelength for this, but it's only a quarter wavelength for that. So does that mean I got to go out and adjust? No, just put up a damn wire and get on the air.
get on the air. You'll be surprised. Yeah, the takeoff angle that's shown in like the ARRL antenna book. Yeah, that's correct, but it doesn't mean there isn't RF below or around that line. That's like maybe 6 dB points or 3 dB
Yeah,
points. You may be down an S unit or two S units from that takeoff angle, but you're still going to be heard. And
yeah,
you may not be the first one in the pileup unless you're really good at listening to pileups and figuring out when to call,
yeah,
timing it just right, and having fun. Let me define DX.
yeah,
What is DX? And this is the subject of an upcoming YouTube video, and I will give you the answer that I'm going to give in the video. It's making contact with somebody, and when you get finished, you go, "Wow, I just made contact with a guy in Seattle using a light bulb." That's DX.
sure.
Anything that you go, "Wow, that is really neat." I talked to a guy in France, or I talked to a guy in Japan, or I talked to a guy in Texas. Um, if it's a thrill to do it, that's DX. One of the guys that has the biggest antenna system in the world, Stan, KE5EE. It's got enormous antennas. I called him, we talked on the phone, and I asked him for his definition of DX. His first one was kind of what you read in the ARRL handbook, working in another entity on the DXCC list. And I said, Stan, what about when you talk to, I hear you talk to a guy in Texas, and I hear you talk to me, and I can hear, and he said, you know what? You're right. He said, I'm happy to talk to anybody anywhere. It's a thrill to make contact. He's still that teenager in New York that had a wire out the window and would talk to somebody. So for me and for him and for you, being a ham radio operator is a thrill, and making contact with somebody is a thrill, and I've enjoyed it all of these years. It has been a lot of fun, and I enjoy the teaching part of it
Yeah,
because I learn before I do a presentation. I try to go to one or two, sometimes more experts and say, here's what I intend to present. What do you think? They may have a more complicated answer, but I'm able to confirm, yeah, that's basically correct. But you're leaving out, I know, but I don't need to know all the math behind what the reactance is. I just need to know whether it's plus or minus reactive, whether it's inductive or capacitive. That's a
Sure,
lot. That's a lot
sure.
for somebody to learn who's not an engineer. And for that, I get really nice comments.
Yeah,
You, if you've ever read through the comments I get, they are just over the top, kind, generous. People have been very, very generous as I'm going through this disease that we haven't talked about.
yeah.
Um, uh,
Well, Jim, that answers my next question. Why do you do all these videos? And damn, you're good at it. And we thank you for that because you've educated so many of us. So we're thankful for that. I guess I've got some other questions I want to ask, but we're going to change the topic up a little bit. But before we do that, for anybody who's watching or listening to this, if you want to learn more about Jim's story and Jim's background, go to QSO Today, episode 320. And Eric Forsaid 1UG interviewed Jim, and Jim told his whole story there. We've just touched on, we barely scratching the surface. Jim, you're going through a rough time with your health. I guess I can say it that way. Uh, Tell us more about that.
I I knew for a long time that there was something wrong. That it did you get this sense that something isn't right. And I would go to the doctor or I would go to the emergency room and they would send me home with it's PTSD or it's something. Here's some Valium, take some Valium and call me in the morning kind of a thing. I was getting ready. I was They were getting me ready for gallbladder surgery. I was laying on the gurney. They had put some stuff in my arm and I was a bit loopy. And the surgeon comes out and he's holding some papers and he says, we're not going to do the surgery today. Now I'm ready to go in. They've got the anesthesiologist and all this stuff because they know there's some issues with me. And I was shocked by that. And he said, Jim, I think you have cancer. And they rolled me back in and made an appointment with oncology. Uh, I ended up with the doctor, just by luck, who is the head of oncology. And she's one of the best doctors that I've ever had. And she's been very good to me. Um, so she said, yeah, we did a bone marrow aspiration shortly thereafter. It's when they do that. You ever use a solder sucker?
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, vacuum too.
yeah. And so they have you lay down on your stomach, and those knobby things at the bottom of your spine, they cut the skin open and they
Oh,
drill into it, and they stick in the solder sucker, for lack of
yeah,
and they snap it. And when they snap it, you scream because there's no anesthesia that will calm the inside of your bone. They suck out bone.
right.
So I go through that now every 3 to 6 months. I'm due to have one in a month. It's the most painful thing I've ever experienced, but I understand that. I'm Problem is I tense up before they do it because she says, okay, here we
Oh,
go.
yeah, sure.
So in your blood, in my blood, they found that there were at least one defective chromosome, and it's missing the Y component. And so it's cancer. And the number of bad blood cells then determines how bad your cancer is, blood cancer. So they call them plugs, or
Mm,
and there's another name, a more technical name than that, that I can't think of at the moment. That percentage of plugs continued to grow as each test was done. Now, I would lay in oncology for a week with my wife sitting next to me, receiving chemotherapy in my arms or in my chest. despite that, the number of plugs doubled and doubled again. And pretty soon it was at 20%. And at that point, the diagnosis now 2 years ago changed to acute myeloid leukemia, AML. It had been myeloid dysplastic syndrome, sometimes called pre-leukemia. So pre-leukemia grew into
Mm,
full-blown leukemia. So the oncologist I have, who is really smart and lectures other doctors on how to treat patients,
mhm.
suggested a new medication. And I said, okay. And so I take it here at the house. It's in pill form. And the bottle of 30 tablets is just about $40,000. I had to pay,
How long do those 30 tablets last you? Is that a month?
yeah, it's a bit, right now I'm taking one a day. Yeah. So it's 20.
Holy.
Yeah. So I have to make sure I get the refill on the way, which has always been a bit of a problem
Yeah.
because the pharmacy looks at it and goes, holy moly, $40,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of money to be tying up for
Yeah,
30
it
pills.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they Kaiser has been good. 1 year's bill was $350,000. And I don't know how much last year was, but it'll be it
Comparable.
big, yeah. So this medication has been miraculous in that it reduced the roughly 20% plugs down to less than 1%
Oh, wow.
in about 30 days. Now we're going to do it again to see if it's still working. My blood counts, they do blood counts at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, show a friend of mine's a media trend, and I gave him the data, and his response was, "Yeah, it's an improving trend." So my hemoglobin sometimes dips way down. I've had more than 20 transfusions and more than 30, I think more than 30 admissions to the hospital. Um, but I'm doing better right now. There are days like yesterday, I sent an email to you. I hope it made sense.
It
Uh,
did. Yeah.
yeah,
It,
I
it, it did in its own unique way,
yeah.
you know.
The email that I sent to Vince was, um, I don't think I'm a good candidate to talk to you today because I took major painkillers yesterday, so much so that my wife sat me in a wheelchair, rolled me back to the bedroom, and put me down for the night, saying, you know, get some sleep.
Yeah.
I did because the pain was terrible. And I have nurses that come virtually every day of the week, and I had to convey that to a nurse. But all in all, on average, I'm doing better, and my attitude has been good. And let me tie that to ham radio. Ham radio is unique, and that's a word I don't use, unique, because that means there's just one. You can't be very
Mm,
unique. Very unique doesn't exist.
yeah, sure.
You're unique. Ham radio is unique in that I've been very lucky, whether it be local or distant, but I've made friends all over the world.
Yeah.
Good friends. A guy in Crimea, long story with him, Austria, VE6LK, and guys like that who I can say hello to on the air, and they recognize my voice. And I know them because they visited. I know their wives. I know, in some cases, their names of their children and what's going on. So I can make friendships, whether it's 100 miles away or all the way on the other side of the planet, with other ham radio operators, and they really do care about how you're doing. And so
Yeah.
I made these great friendships. Now, some of them, um, their political views are very different from mine, and we might discuss that on the phone as opposed to on the air.
Sure.
But we're still friends, and we agree to get along and to be nice to each other and to listen to each other. And it's been a thrill to know the guys that I've known. Some of them were actors in Hollywood. Others were guys who worked at Lockheed, literally cleaning up after others. It it's a nice group of people. Unfortunately, it's mostly old and it's mostly men. but those friendships have lasted 60 years in some
Yeah.
cases. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
Not to
Yeah.
belabor the point, but
It's you make lifelong friendships in this hobby or service,
yeah.
and and that's something people don't know about or they underestimate
Yeah.
as they
And
get into it.
let me tell you about a recent experience because it was like, what? I'm in terrible pain. I have broken L6 and 7, and I know I have. I can
And
feel it.
and just L6 and 7, those are low back vertebrae.
Yeah. And I'd
Yeah.
broken 4 and 5 also in a previous time.
Yeah.
So I'm in just terrible pain. It's at a 10. It's not going away. Um, I was doing I was doing a YouTube video and I didn't get it finished. And I had, okay, I can't call an ambulance. I got to get the YouTube video finished.
All right.
So sheer stupidity. The next day I got it done. I went out to my wife who has lost her hearing and flashed 911. And
Yeah.
she called. I got on the phone with the dispatcher. In through the door come firemen and an ambulance. The firemen go, "Oh, we've been here before. We know you, Jim." And they put me on the gurney. And one guy in particular was really kind, really generous. And they're rolling me out. He's kind of holding my hand and, you know,
Yeah.
and he said, I'm getting emotional.
He's doing things to make you comfortable, for sure.
He says, I'm a him. I'm a subscriber, KG6CYA. And he closes the door to the ambulance with, kind
Yeah.
words.
Sure.
So that was one of the things that helped ease the pain going into
Sure.
the hospital. And so I've got this guy who's a subscriber on YouTube and a ham who lives blocks from me, and he's the chief of the fire station and a really nice guy. I get to the hospital and there's no room. There's no space, and I've got to be in isolation because my white count is low.
Yeah.
So they pull somebody out of a room and they put me in, and I'm laying there and I'm looking out the door. There's no curtain, there's no TV. It's just a room. And I'm looking out the window and the door, and there's a guy standing at the door like this with his back to the door, blocking the door, like he's protecting the door. And I thought, what the heck is that? And beyond him, Vince, I can see other guys. They've all got a badge on and like a blue shirt. But this guy's standing with his arms crossed, protecting the door. And I thought, what? So my wife shows up and she had to have a tag on to say who she was. And she comes in the room and I said, what is going on with this? And she said, you're in the psych ward. So, so
So that was the only place they could find a room to put you.
it,
Okay.
it was, and so it became sort of a joke as I would talk to friends.
Yeah.
I'd say, well, I'm in the psych ward. I feel sorry for the folks who were in there because it was interesting to hear what was going on. But
That's a whole other kind of treatment for
it
sure.
is, yeah. And finally, I was moved to a regular room. Other times when I've gone there, I've had to be put into whatever room they can find. I've been in pediatrics with cartoons on the walls. Um, and it,
You've had unfortunately quite a tour of the hospital
I
system
I have, and
with all of this.
some of the nurses go, "Oh, I've seen you before." So,
Yeah.
um,
And so this can't be easy on those around you.
yeah,
I've got an expression, the caregiver has got to take care of themselves first. It's hard on caregivers.
it on my wife, who's my caregiver, it is extremely hard.
Yeah.
She's got to take care of me, and that means when she's asleep at night, if I'm stirring, her hearing is way down.
Yeah.
She immediately comes in the room like, "Are you okay? What's wrong? What's going on?" Um, and it's important though, I think, since I've been in the hospital so many times, to have that's in the room with you who can observe what's going on,
Yeah.
can be your caregiver. Sometimes it's just listening, or the doctor will come in and say, Jim, here's what's wrong with you. And you're so zoned out on sometimes morphine it goes in one ear and out the other, and the
Yeah,
caregiver can take notes and when you get home and say, well, here's what he said, and you go, oh, did he really? Did we talk
yeah.
about that? Yeah. So just as an aside to folks who might end up in the hospital, decide ahead of time who your caregiver is going to be. Who is that person that's going to help out when you're in tough shape? And there have been times when I thought, well, I'm not going to go to the hospital again. I'm going to be good for the rest of the year. I'm feeling fine, and boom, something,
Yeah, and then
yeah, and there you
yeah,
go.
and then your body has other plans.
It is, and
Yeah.
the other thing that I try to do, and I try to convey in my videos, and it is part of my presentation, is a positive attitude. Yes, I have leukemia. Yes, it's a fatal disease. But because of ham radio, seriously, because of ham radio and my friends, I've been able to maintain a good attitude. Because that's the alternative, as you know, would be to sit in front of the TV looking at something.
Cartoons.
Yeah, I don't want to go into what it might be, but it would just be, yeah, it would just be the same old thing. And I so I'm awake, I'm engaged, I'm talking to guys, I'm having fun. Some of them know what's wrong with me, and so they're really nice in return. That's another thing. People have been extremely generous, over the top generosity, nice notes. Some have sent money, some very large amounts of money, which has come in handy because some of the medications,
Well, yeah, you're talking about that one med. It's, 40 large a month.
yeah, 40,000 a month and a couple thousand copay.
Yeah.
So this whole ham radio, I don't want to call it a hobby because it goes that
It's a brotherhood.
yes, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
It's a brotherhood. And the guy you're talking to, he may be a Sikh, he may be somewhere else, who knows? But
He might be a Sikh and he might be a CEO. It does not matter. Ladies and
oh,
gentlemen,
yeah,
we come from all walks of life.
we do. And that's the thrill of ham radio and the
Yeah.
DX of ham radio is all kinds of folks can get a license now. It's some have when I got my license, we had to pass 20 words a minute for the extra and 13 for the general. And I failed it the first time. And you had to send also. Um, that barrier has gone away. And that's allowed some folks into amateur radio that otherwise wouldn't be here. And they're by by and large, vast majority, really nice guys who are thrilled that they can now get a license and get on the air and learn as they're doing because that's how you learn.
Yeah.
You know, somebody says, "Hey, your mic gain's too high." What? You know, so you learn by doing, and
Well,
you make mistakes.
there's four steps to learning. So let's come to this for a second here. You learn the first time in the classroom, somebody teaches you something. You learn the second time when you put your hands on it.
Yeah,
You learn the third time when you're asked to explain it to somebody else.
that's true.
Oh, did I say four? I meant three. But
Okay.
yeah, because you have to learn the detail and behind it, and you have to simplify that message. And so Lou instilled that in you, and you've instilled that in us. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I've been very fortunate to have friends who sometimes have contacted me that have a master's or a PhD or a BS in electrical engineering. And I go, you might think about saying it this way, or you might think about doing it this way. Sometimes their explanation is really complicated, and I've got to boil it down to what do we really need to know? What do we need to understand? If you're running out a piece of coax and you cut it 66 feet long, it may not be what you want because there's a thing called velocity factor. You know, what the heck is that? So there's all these little things that you have to learn. And actually it's kind of fun. That
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you put up a half wave antenna in the tree. And my response to that was, that worked. Well,
Yeah.
it did. And you work France, and that's neat. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It was very cool.
yeah.
Well, Jim, what should I ask you that I haven't?
Um, Probably where I'm going with the YouTube
Hmm.
channel and what's happened in recent weeks. I have not been able to sit and record a video for a couple of weeks. Um, some days I just can't. I want to be positive with my energy. I want to present an energetic guy who conveys a message. I have made videos where I looked at it and said, no, I'm not going to upload it.
Yeah.
It doesn't emote the kind of thing that I want. So
Yeah.
I have to be in shape. My voice has to be in shape.
Yes.
And my attitude has to be good. When that all comes together, I can do a video, and I'm doing one right now because I'm in, with the exception of yesterday, been in pretty good shape. So there are going to be gaps where there have been times where I've been confined to bed where the doctors
Yeah.
put your butt in bed.
Yeah.
And I follow that. If they say you go to bed, I do it because I don't want to get worse. Worse is not good.
Yeah.
Um, but this whole thing is sci-fi come to life for me. I can have a contact with VE6LK and meet him on Zoom and see his face, as I did the other day with somebody.
Yeah.
And what a thrill that I can sit, got a flat screen, which was part of this movie, uh, and talk to the guy. Um, my father worked on the Star Trek show, and there's a lot of that Star Trek stuff that was done in post production and while they're filming it has come to life. We are living in a I don't want to say space age, but at a time where we can talk to each other. You can have a club meeting, clubs plural meeting, have a bunch of people join in, watch, post a comment, ask a question, and no longer do you have to have a club meeting in a room at Lockheed like we did, or in a room at some other place. You can do it on YouTube. So putting this all together, it's the neatest thing that I could imagine. I don't know if anything could be better. Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty cool. You and I met over Zoom the first time, and we got to work on air on 20-meter phone, and that was the most super cool thing to have happen. I get to talk to the radio on the radio to a guy that I've met,
Yeah,
although not in person. It's almost as good.
it is.
It's pretty cool.
Some guys make the comment, and I the way I hear me,
Hmm.
not the way you hear me.
That's right.
So, because
We're all like that.
yeah, it sounds different. But guys will say, "Is this Jim?" Or there was a pileup calling a guy in Europe, and I called, and he said, "I think I hear Jim." So
Yeah.
somehow my voice is recognizable to others,
Yeah,
and that's been
it
a
is.
thrill too. It's an absolute thrill, and putting this whole package together about ham radio and YouTube, POTA, which is incredibly popular. I had no idea it would be.
I don't think any of us did.
Yeah, that's all fun. And the other thing I'll mention quickly is that we have manufacturers and stores that are really good at what they do. The fact that companies, the whole list of them, would spend the money to generate a new transceiver and put it on the market. In some cases, it's at a lower price point than preceding models, and it does more stuff. And it's like we're getting all of this great stuff for a relatively small market. We are not that many, and that they respond to us the way they do, the way the manufacturers do, is phenomenal. So my word on that subject is be nice to the guy in the store. Seriously, be nice to the guy in the store who's helping you out,
Yeah.
and be nice to the manufacturer who's generated a piece of equipment. Yeah, there's something about it you may not like, but the rest of it is amazing. So
Yeah,
enjoy. Yeah.
yeah.
My lecture for today. Be nice.
And enjoy it and enjoy and be gracious. So many people don't understand. Sitting on my side of the table, as I do working in ham radio retail, I'm well aware that the innovations we get to play with are a result of all of the innovations from the manufacturers doing for their commercial and military customer base. It's great that we get to play with these toys too, even if it's a slightly different version of that same radio.
Beyond that, you have sort of an obligation to learn how those things work.
Yeah.
So when somebody calls and says, I've got this SCU-LAN and I can't find the software, I picked one up.
Yeah, the bane of my existence, part
Yeah, yeah.
numbers.
Yeah, that's right. And you go, well, I can help you with that. And you do. And that is really neat. And that's a little bit like I try to do. Yeah, I can.
Yeah,
I've given many guys my home phone number and said, call me, I'll help you with it. So we can just discuss it via phone. And that's what you're doing. You're talking to somebody on the phone, helping them
yeah,
out.
yeah,
So
or in person or whatever.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Jim, any last thoughts? We're looking
No,
forward to your next videos, by the way.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, of course.
I'm doing a video on what's DX. I've already given away the answer for that one.
Yeah.
And Callum, what a sweetheart of a guy, has
Yes, he is.
recorded. He's amazing. He is one of the hardest working manufacturers I've ever run across. He's always doing something,
Yep.
always in motion. His wife, Wendy, they raised some money for me, and in a couple of days, incredibly kind. Next video is on DX. Callum's done a recording that I'll play in the video, and it's great. And then I've got some others planned beyond that. One is revisiting how to set the miking, compression, and equalizer, especially on the ASU. I have some rule of thumb for each of the settings that
Beautiful.
that I think works very well, and I'm going to be covering that. And again, I'll try to make it in an engaging, nice way. Nobody knows it all. Nobody's, you know,
No,
nobody.
we're all experimenters.
We're all experimenters. We're learning. We make mistakes, and that's how we learned.
Yeah,
Not turn the mic gain up too high.
indeed. Jim, it's been a pleasure to spend this time with you today. Thank you for that gift of time. Thanks for all the great YouTube videos you do.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's been good for me and Vince. It's been great to have you into my radio room
Indeed.
on the screen. What a thrill for me too.
Right on.
Vince 73.
7-3, Jim. See ya.
All right. See you. Bye bye.